So my name is Tess Kilwein, and I'll be presenting today on self-compassion as the heart of self-care. So in this webinar, we'll define self-compassion and explore its use as a self-care tool in our day-to-day lives to self-soothe, decrease harmful self-talk, decrease feelings of shame, and facilitate a more gentle and compassionate relationship with ourselves and others. This webinar will include actually 2 self-guided self-compassion practices and is sponsored by SegPay. Self-compassion. So what is self-compassion as a concept? Well, people tend to know how to show compassion towards others in their lives. Self-compassion is simply the process of showing that same compassion to ourselves, so turning it inwards. This can be done through first noticing and then responding compassionately to our own suffering, our own challenges. It also involves offering understanding and kindness to ourselves when we fail or make mistakes, the same way we might to others that we care about. And finally, it involves realizing that suffering, failure, and imperfection are part of a shared human experience. We aren't alone in it. There are 3 elements to self-compassion: self-kindness, common humanity, and mindfulness. First, self-compassionate people practice self-kindness instead of self-judgment. Self-compassion entails being warm and understanding towards ourselves when we suffer, fail, or feel inadequate, rather than ignoring our pain or responding with self-criticism. Self-compassionate people recognize that being imperfect, failing, and experiencing life difficulties are all inevitable. So they tend to be gentle with themselves when confronted with painful experiences. Next, self-compassion requires recognition of common humanity rather than isolation. Frustration at not having things exactly as we want is often accompanied by a sense of isolation, as if I were the only person suffering or making mistakes. Instead, self-compassion involves recognizing that suffering and imperfection are part of a shared human experience, something that we all go through. And lastly, self-compassion requires mindfulness of emotions rather than over-identification with those emotions. Ultimately, self-compassion stems from the willingness to observe our negative thoughts and emotions with openness and clarity, not judgment, without trying to suppress or deny them. We cannot both ignore our pain and feel compassion for it at the same time. Mindfulness also requires that we don't over-identify with our thoughts and emotions so that we aren't controlled by them. So we're going to engage in a brief self-compassion break to demonstrate the 3 components of self-compassion. So I'm going to ask those participating to close your eyes and take a moment to identify something that is causing you stress or emotional discomfort. Maybe it's related to your occupation, your health, or a relationship. Now take a moment to see if you can find the discomfort in your body. Where do you feel it the most? Notice the sensation as it arises in your body. Don't avoid it, don't judge it, don't push it away. Now say to yourself slowly, this is a moment of suffering. This is called mindfulness, recognizing what is taking place in the current moment non-judgmentally. Other options to say to yourself include, this hurts, ouch, or this is stressful. Next, again, say to yourself slowly, suffering is a part of living. That's called common humanity, recognizing that emotional suffering is an experience that we all have. Other options include, I'm not alone, others are just like me. We all face struggles in our lives. And this is how it feels when a person struggles this way. Finally, say to yourself, may I be kind to myself? This is self-kindness. Other options include, may I give myself what I need? May I accept myself as I am? May I choose understanding? If you're having difficulty finding the right words, imagine that a close friend or loved one is having the same problem that you identified in the beginning. What would you say to this person? If your friend were to hold just a few of your words in their mind, what would you like them to be? What message would you like to deliver? Now, see if you can offer the same message to yourself. When you're ready, you can open your eyes and notice how it feels in your body. Do you feel more stressed? Do you feel relieved? And practice again if you need to. So talking about self-compassion as a coping and resilience tool, what self-compassion does is it allows us to self-soothe ourselves in moments of distress. So it allows us, like we just did, to bring awareness to the physical components of negative emotions in our body and ask ourselves, what are those sensations trying to tell us about what we need or how we might need to take care of ourselves? Sometimes what we need is as simple as taking a break or being held by someone. Self-compassion also allows us to decrease harmful self-talk. So instead of engaging in self-criticism and negative self-talk in response to the mistakes that we make or the shortcomings we perceive about ourselves, self-compassion allows us to cultivate an inner voice of kindness and understanding, the same way we might to someone else. It allows us to speak to ourselves in a more positive and productive way, to not make similar mistakes in the future, and accept ourselves as whole beings versus over-identify with our shortcomings or our mistakes. Self-compassion similarly addresses the judgment that comes with feelings of shame. People often confuse guilt with shame. Now, guilt is an emotion we experience in response to causing harm, while shame really has no benefit to us whatsoever. And as Brené Brown famously said, guilt is I did something bad. Shame is I am bad. Instead of being harshly self-critical when we fail, make mistakes, or feel inadequate, self-compassion allows us to treat ourselves with the care, understanding, and support that we need to combat feelings of shame that really serve no purpose to us whatsoever. Finally, self-compassionate people display more positive relationship behavior than those who lack self-compassion. So if we are kind and generous to ourselves, that keeps our physiological arousal down so that we can respond to others with kindness rather than threat. It is much easier to be kind to others when we're feeling kind ourselves. Now let's talk a little bit about self-compassion and how this looks in our daily lives. So the ultimate goal is to be both mindful and self-compassionate in daily life. That means to, one, know when you're under stress or suffering, and two, respond with the care and kindness in those moments. The easiest approach to discovering self-compassion is, how do you already take care of yourself? What already works? Then reminding yourself to continue to do those things even when life becomes difficult. So self-compassion in our daily life can be practiced in a number of different ways: physically, mentally, emotionally, relationally, and spiritually. Physically, how do you take care of yourself physically? Do you exercise, go on walks, take a warm bath, or drink a cup of tea? Can you think of what already works? Or can you think of new ways to release the tension and stress that builds up in your body physically? Mentally, how do you care for your mind, especially when you're under stress? Do you meditate, watch a funny movie, read an inspiring book? Or are there new strategies you'd like to try to let your thoughts come and go more easily in stressful moments? Emotionally, how do you care for yourself emotionally? Do you pet the dog, journal, or cook? Is there something new that you'd like to try? And relationally, how or when do you relate to others that bring you genuine happiness? Do you meet with friends, send a birthday card, play a game? Is there any way that you'd like to enrich these connections? And lastly, spiritually, how do you care for yourself spiritually? Do you pray? Do you walk in the woods? Do you help others? If you've been neglecting your spiritual side, whatever this looks like, is there anything you'd like to remember to do? So take a moment to think about your daily life. Are these practices that I mentioned ones that you already engage in? Do they work for you? Are you lacking in a certain area? And ask yourself, What might I do more of? What might I need to do more of? Or what might I need to do differently? Another really important way to practice self-compassion is to be open to and ultimately accept painful emotions. We all experience painful emotions. There's no way to avoid them. So one way to do so is to think of emotions as guests coming into our home. There are a number of ways we can respond to those guests. We can resist them. We can slam or lock the door, tell the visitors to leave, pretend that we're not home. We can explore. We might be curious, peek out the window to see who it is, what they might want. We can even tolerate. So you might open the door, but ask the guest to stay by the door, wait there. You might keep your distance. You might even go to a different room than the guest. We can allow. So we can open the door and let the guests go in and out. Maybe even move around the house a little bit. Maybe even share space with you. Or we can befriend. We can see the value in each guest, invite them in, and ask them what they have come to tell you. So as we develop relationships with each guest, even the not so pleasant ones, we might discover our own unmet needs that we can bring self-compassion to. Now apply this to the painful or negative emotions in your life. We can try to resist. We can do some exploring. We might even tolerate or allow them in, but without truly befriending or understanding what those emotions have come to tell you, what they're trying to teach you, we won't ever discover our unmet needs or how to show ourselves self-compassion. So I'd like to touch on any topic that I present specific to the adult entertainment industry. So research does support higher levels of self-esteem, positive feelings, social support, satisfaction, and spirituality among those in the adult entertainment industry, despite stereotypes and shameful messages about what types of personalities and backgrounds are drawn to the work. So if we go back and reflect on self-compassion in daily life, adult entertainment workers have found effective means and supportive environments to express themselves and cope. Now, despite these findings, feelings of shame are not uncommon among those in the industry or anyone, really, primarily because of the external messages and opinions about people and their work and their relationships. And so what this means is that making the regular practice of self-compassion is more important than ever. Finding ways to connect in your daily life, whether that be physically, relationally, spiritually, and using those tools as coping and resilience mechanisms can help one show themselves more self-compassion in difficult moments of their lives. So we'll finish this webinar with another self-compassion practice, and this one's going to be a little bit longer. So I'll ask anyone here to please find a comfortable position. So maybe that means uncrossing your legs. Maybe it means just resting on the back of your chair. And close your eyes if that feels comfortable to you. To start the practice, let's take 3 relaxing breaths. Breathing in and out. And in and out. For the last time, breathing in and breathing out. Now place a hand on your heart for just a few moments to remind yourself that you are in the room and bring kindness to yourself. Now, with your eyes still closed, let yourself recall a mild to moderately difficult situation that you are currently in. Perhaps it's a health problem, stress in a relationship, or a loved one in pain themselves. Don't choose a very difficult problem, but don't choose a completely trivial problem either. Choose a problem that can generate a little stress in your body when you think of it. Now, Clearly visualize the situation. Who is involved? What has been said? What happened? Now see if you can name the strongest emotion, a difficult emotion associated with that anger, with that situation. Do you feel anger, sadness, grief, confusion, fear, longing, despair? Take a moment to think about what emotion you feel strongest. Now, repeat the name of the emotion to yourself in a gentle, understanding voice, as if you were validating for a friend what they're feeling. You might say, that's sadness. That's longing. That's grief. Now expand your awareness to your body as a whole. Bring your attention back to that difficult situation and scan your body for where you feel it the most. In your mind's eye, sweep from the top of your head all the way down to your toes. Check in and stop where you can sense a little tension or discomfort. If this is a new practice to you, many people tend to hold that discomfort in their shoulders. Take a moment to see if you feel it there. Maybe it's your abdomen, maybe it's elsewhere. Now choose a single location in your body where the feeling expresses itself most strongly. Perhaps it's the muscle tension or an achy feeling like a heartache. And in your mind, incline gently towards that spot in your body. Next, soften into that location in your body. Let the muscles be soft without requiring that they become soft. Like simply allowing heat to sore muscles. You can say soft, 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 quietly to yourself to enhance the process. Remember that the goal is not to make the sensation go away. You're just being with it in loving awareness. If you wish, let yourself just soften like around the edges of a pancake or ice cream. No need to go all the way in. Now soothe yourself for struggling in this way. Put your hand back over your heart and feel your body breathe. Let's take another 3 breaths. Breathing in, breathing out, and in, and out. Last breath in, and out. Perhaps kind words arise in your mind, such as, my dear, this is such a painful experience. May I grow in ease and well-being. Now, if you wish, you can also direct kindness to the specific part of your body that's under stress by placing a hand in that space. So maybe you place it on your abdomen. It may help to think of your body as if it were the body of a child. You can say kind words to yourself or just repeat, soothe, soothe, soothe. Now allow the discomfort to be there. Abandon the wish for the feeling to disappear. Let the discomfort come and go as it pleases, like a guest in your own home. You can repeat, allow, allow, allow. Soften, soothe, and allow. Soften, soothe, and allow. You can use these 3 words like a mantra, reminding yourself to incline with tenderness towards your suffering. Now, if you experience too much discomfort with an emotion, stay with your breath until you feel better. Take a final deep breath. Out. Slowly open your eyes when you're ready. So to recap today's webinar, we are talking about self-compassion and how to implement it into our daily lives. Self-compassion, the process of turning compassion that we often display towards others inward. It involves 3 elements: self-kindness, common or shared humanity, and mindfulness. We took a short self-compassion break, and we talked about self-compassion as a coping and resilience tool that you can use to self-soothe yourself physically, decrease harmful self-talk, decrease feelings of shame, and facilitate healthy relationships. We talked about how self-compassion looks in your daily life, how you can practice it physically, mentally, emotionally, relationally, and spiritually. And then we talked about the importance of accepting painful emotions. As a reminder, as we develop relationships with each guest or each emotion, even the not so pleasant ones, we might discover our own unmet needs that we can bring self-compassion to. And then we talked about self-compassion in the industry, where we actually find higher levels of self-esteem and positive feelings and spirituality. Yet, the industry can be riddled with shame, often from external messages and opinions about the work from others. And lastly, we engaged in a soften, soothe, and allow exercise. So what I encourage you to do, if that self-compassion practice resonated with you, come back to this webinar and engage in that practice again. Also, a number of great self-compassion exercises that you can find online. Today's webinar, Self-Compassion as the Heart of Self-Care, sponsored by SegPay.